She was a substantial royal figure in her own right. She was going to be the next queen, but for Bashir, it's not impossible that she would still have been the next queen. Behind the palace smiles and public tears, a quiet truth has waited decades to be told. For the first time, Princess Diana's former private secretary breaks his silence, revealing how deception at the BBC shattered trust, rewrote loyalties, and altered the course of royal history. This is not the Diana the world was sold, but a formidable future queen undone by manipulation, media power, and betrayal that still echoes through William and Harry's lives. So, what really happened behind closed doors? Stick around as we uncover the long-buried conspiracies inside Diana's world, before and after Panorama. This year, November 20th, quietly marks 3 decades since the Panorama interview that changed Princess Diana's life forever. At the time, millions watched her speak with calm honesty, unaware that the ground beneath her had been carefully weakened. What later emerged was not simply a controversial television moment, but a calculated chain of lies that pushed Diana into trusting the wrong person. The journalist at the center of it all, Martin Bashir, used forged documents and fear to convince her she was surrounded by enemies. And the damage from that manipulation echoed for years. The truth waited in shadows. Long after the interview aired, new investigations and books began pulling at loose threads. One of them, written by Andy Webb, laid out how the deception worked, how it spiraled, and how the BBC chose to protect itself rather than admit the truth. At the heart of that story, music, Patrick Jephson, Diana's former private secretary, a man who watched events unfold from the closest possible distance. When the Dyson inquiry finally exposed Bashir's tactic, Jephson received a payout from the BBC, not as a prize, but as an admission that something deeply wrong had been done. Now, on the anniversary of that interview, Jephson speaks openly about those years, not just about betrayal and media power, but about life inside Diana's private world. Before he ever entered Kensington Palace, his life followed a very different path. Born in Ireland and educated in Scotland, he later studied at Cambridge, building a future rooted in discipline and public service. The Royal Navy became his home, the sea his routine, and command his expected destiny. He believed that life would be permanent. Then came an unusual opportunity. Very few officers are ever considered to serve as military aides to the royal family. When Jephson's name was mentioned as a possible candidate for Princess Diana, even he assumed it would lead nowhere. He was told plainly that he did not fit the image, and he accepted that. The idea faded until an unexpected summons arrived. Suddenly, he was walking into Kensington Palace for lunch with the most famous woman in the world. That meeting was not stiff or rehearsed. It was human, relaxed, and surprising. Jefferson expected nothing from it, which allowed him to simply be himself. Not long after the offer arrived, became Diana's equerry, and for 2 years he worked at her side, witnessing both the public spectacle and the private strain. When that role ended, his naval career was meant to resume. But Diana's life was already shifting. Her marriage was unraveling, her Snort's independence growing, and she wanted control over her own office. She asked Jephson to stay, to leave the Navy, and to help her build something new. Working for Diana was never a fairy tale. She was warm, funny, and eager to laugh, but she was also exacting and demanding. Jephson insists this was not cruelty, but professionalism. Diana understood the role she played. She knew crowds waited for hours just to see her, and she refused to disappoint them. She could move between emotional closeness and aristocratic distance, offering comfort one moment and regal authority the next. That balance defined her power as pressure grew and outsiders closed in. One bond stood firm. Diana's trust in Jephson never wavered. But what happened when that trust was quietly tested in ways no one saw coming? Stay glued, where duty ended and betrayal began. People often asked whether Diana truly enjoyed the role she played in the royal world. It sounds like a simple question, but those close to her knew it had no easy answer. There were moments when she felt overwhelmed by sadness, and no one could deny she had reasons to feel that way. Yet she had little patience for self, pity in others, and even in herself, she fought against sinking too deeply into it. What brought her real energy was work. When her days were full, when she had purpose and direction, something shifted inside her. She came alive when she could turn her own pain into comfort for people who were suffering far more. Visiting hospitals, holding hands, listening without judgment. These moments mattered to her. In many ways, she only realized she was happy after the moment had passed. Those around her noticed it and said she thrived most when her life had structure, discipline, and duty for her soul. Her lowest moments usually came when that structure fell away. When she felt ignored, undervalued, or pushed aside, the unhappiness crept back in. Royal Snort's life from the outside looks endlessly busy, but the truth is more complicated. Members of the family are not constantly at work. Still, those who served them observed a pattern. They were most fulfilled when actively engaged in public roles. This question of happiness became even more complex during the late 1980s, when Diana's marriage was quietly unraveling. By then, she was not just a princess, but a young mother of two under Snort's intense pressure. Her private secretary entered her life during this period, expecting a demanding but manageable role. Instead, he stepped into a situation far more intense than he imagined. At first, he believed there would be balance. Hard work mixed with travel, rest, and the comforts of royal service. That illusion faded quickly. Diana's life did not follow the usual royal pattern. For her to function well at work, she needed emotional stability beyond it. If she arrived content, the day flowed smoothly. If Snort's not, everything felt heavier. This situation pushed her staff deeper into her personal life than was normally expected. While other courtiers maintained distance from private matters, he became deeply involved, especially as separation talks turned into divorce negotiations. Decisions about her home, her finances, music, and her access to her children all passed through his hands. She had very few people she trusted, and that responsibility landed on him. Throughout it all, maintaining professional boundaries mattered. Both needed space to breathe and preserve some sense of normal life. But as media hostility grew, and rival stories leaked from opposing sides, the atmosphere became toxic. By the mid-1990s, the pressure was relentless. Diana felt exposed and increasingly alone, setting the stage for a moment that would change everything. Ahead lies Martin's Bashir BBC betrayal. But was that interview a lifeline or a carefully laid trap? So, who truly benefited from this? Stay with us because the truth may not be what you expect. The untold story behind Diana's Panorama interview. Looking back, many people have tried to pinpoint exactly why Princess Diana agreed to sit down with Martin Bashir for that explosive Panorama interview. Some believed it was a direct response to Prince Charles speaking openly to Jonathan Dimbley, a way of fighting back in what felt like a growing media war. Others saw it as something deeper, shaped by fear, loneliness, and a sense that the system around her was no longer on her side. For those closest to her, especially Patrick Jefferson, the truth was far more complicated and far more painful. At the time, Britain's Snorts was caught in what could only be described as a public relations battlefield. Charles's supporters believed his book and television appearances had tilted public sympathy in his favor. Diana, meanwhile, had already told parts of her story through Andrew Morton, but she still felt boxed in by establishment media. From her perspective, the press wasn't neutral. It leaned toward the palace, toward tradition, toward her husband. And in a conflict like that, neutrality often felt like betrayal. Jefferson was aware of this tension. He knew Diana wanted her side understood, but he firmly believed she didn't need dramatic interviews or secret recordings. Her greatest strength, music in his view, was simply doing the work, showing up, meeting people, being photographed, doing what she did best. Her story, he felt, was visual, emotional, and honest without needing spin. When people saw her with their own eyes, they music understood her. They trusted her, and that trust had been earned, not manufactured. What Jefferson did not know, what would later shock him, was that Martin Bashir was already moving quietly behind the scenes. By the time the Panorama interview was recorded, Jefferson had been deliberately kept in the dark. Years later, Thanks to relentless investigation and the findings laid out by Andy Webb, it became clear that this exclusion was no accident. Bashir knew Jeffson well enough to understand that he would have raised red flags, not necessarily against Diana's speaking, but against the way it was being done, without preparation, without strategy, and without protection. To make his plan work, Bashir needed Diana to be isolated, and to isolate her, he needed to weaken her trust in the people closest to her. That included Jeffson. Evidence later revealed that forged documents, music, and false claims were used to suggest betrayal from within her own circle. The result was devastating. Diana began to see familiar faces through a lens of suspicion, believing that those meant to protect her were secretly working against her. Jeffson only fully understood this decades later. At the time, all he felt was a sudden, confusing shift in Diana's behavior toward him. Conversations felt colder. Decisions seemed to happen without him. The ease they once shared was gone, replaced by distance and tension he couldn't explain. He replayed those months in his mind again and again, eventually snorts, realizing that Diana may have believed he had betrayed her. The thought haunted him. In the Panorama interview itself, Diana spoke about keeping her enemies confused. Hearing that later, Jeffson wondered if she had come to see him as one of those enemies. If so, it explained everything: the withdrawal, the silence, the breakdown of trust. After years of working closely together, weathering good times and bad, this was the one crisis they couldn't seem to move past. Jeffson faced an impossible choice. He couldn't confront Diana without evidence. He couldn't accuse her of mistreating him without music, breaking the professional bond they relied on. And he couldn't continue working music in an atmosphere where trust had collapsed. So he did the only thing he felt he could do. He resigned. He told her their working relationship was broken, even though he didn't fully understand why. At the time, confusion outweighed anger. In royal households, especially during that turbulent period, unanswered questions were a common occurrence. Courtiers learned when not to ask, when to wait, and when to endure. Many left, few stayed. It was not a happy place to work. And Jeffson's departure was just one more quiet fracture in a volatile system. But what still lingers is the haunting what if. Because Jeffson says she might not have been killed had it meant he was still with her at that time. So, was his absence music just a coincidence or a missing piece in a far darker puzzle? Keep watching to find out. Haunted Choices, Jefferson and the Shadow of Diana's Death. From the outside, the story of Diana's life and death might seem like headlines and sound bites, but those who were closest knew a far more complicated, painful truth. 25 years after the infamous Panorama interview, Lord Dyson's investigation revealed the layers of manipulation and deceit behind it. How forged documents were used to create distrust, how Bashir's tactics were designed to isolate her, and how the BBC covered up key parts of the story. For those who had worked alongside her, it was a shocking, almost surreal revelation. Trust that had once been implicit had been systematically eroded. Patrick, Diana's private secretary, had moved on with his life by the time the world changed forever on August 31st, 1997. He recalls the morning vividly, waking unusually early, unable to sleep, heading downstairs for a simple cup of tea, and finding snorts a message on the answering machine. A newspaper editor's voice carried the words that would shatter everything. "I expect you've seen the news." He hadn't. The TV confirmed it. Diana had been injured, and then she had died. A strange numbness settled over him. A mixture of disbelief, shock, and a profound sense of loss. In that instant, the personal and professional worlds he had inhabited collided, leaving him suspended between grief and the haunting what-ifs that would follow. He reflects on how the loss took time to process. Even decades later, the revelations about Bashir's deception offered relief, clarity, and a measure of understanding. Yet the ache remains. It wasn't snorts, just a private loss. The ripple effects extended into the monarchy, touching the royal family, the nation, and even the constitutional framework that surrounds the institution. But beyond those grand implications, there was an intimate grief, the absence of someone whose presence had shaped his daily life and purpose. Patrick cannot avoid considering the role of that infamous interview in the tragic chain of events. Could Diana's death have been prevented if she had never trusted Bashir? He acknowledges the difficulty of speculating, but the pattern is clear. By manipulating her trust, spreading lies, and isolating her from those who might have protected her, Bashir's snorts made her vulnerable. Her confidence in the royal machine, the very system designed to keep her safe and structured, was undermined. Protocols, discipline, and careful planning, sometimes irksome, but always protective, lost their effectiveness because she relied on people unprepared and incapable of safeguarding her. Even the trip to Paris, meant to be private, carried risks that had been carefully managed in the past. Yet the moment she allowed herself to be guided by those who were not competent, the danger multiplied, ultimately leading to the worst-case scenario Patrick had always feared. His feelings of admiration, respect, and a deep commitment to her happiness made the loss more piercing. The relationship that had ended with confusion and tension now became colored by the knowledge of betrayal, manipulation, and the cruel twists of fate. But now what shadows linger in the spaces she left behind, and who truly felt the cost of the trust she placed in the wrong hands, stay glued, because the answers are far from simple. The aftermath of Diana's betrayal. After Diana's death, the mood in Britain shifted almost overnight. Grief quickly turned into anger, and much of it was aimed at the media. The moment that captured it best was Earl Spencer's funeral speech, when he snorts accused the press of hounding his sister Music and failing to protect her. At the same time, blame was also pushed toward the royal family, accused of mistreating a woman who had captured the world's heart. In that storm of emotion, few people stopped to think about the quiet figures who had once stood close to Diana and were now left navigating the fallout alone. By then, Patrick Jefferson had already stepped away from royal life. He had resigned in 1996, long before the crash in Paris, and had Music accepted that whatever lay ahead for him would not include Diana, at least not directly. When she died, he watched events unfold more as an observer than a participant. He spoke publicly at times, offering insight, but his deepest concern was for William and Harry. Losing a mother is devastating for any child. Losing her so publicly with the weight of expectation already on their shoulders made their future far harder than anyone could truly grasp. Even so, Diana's influence on Jefferson's life could not simply be erased. She had shaped him just as the Navy had before her. His years in royal service taught him lessons about pressure, loyalty, and judgment that stayed with him long after he moved on. He carried that experience into the rest of his life, trying to apply whatever wisdom he had gained. But history has a way of reaching back, especially when powerful narratives take hold. In the years that followed, Jefferson found himself under suspicion, particularly from the very people he had once wanted to protect most. William and Harry, still young and confused, appeared skeptical of him. There was a belief, entirely false, that he had somehow betrayed their mother, either while she was alive or after her death. What made this especially cruel was that snorts they did not know what had been said about him behind the scenes or how carefully Martin Bashir had worked to turn Diana against those closest to her. What troubled Jefferson most was watching the attacks on Diana intensify after she was gone. The same forces that had undermined her while she lived now doubled down, pushing a darker narrative. She was portrayed as Music, unstable, incapable, even unfit for her role, without saying it directly. Some voices implied that the monarchy had been better off without her, and that her replacement would somehow be an improvement. Books and commentary appeared that dressed these claims up as analysis, even going so far as to suggest questionable psychological labels that had no solid basis. Faced with this, Jefferson felt he could not remain silent. He believed history was becoming unbalanced, tilted against a woman he knew intimately and respected deeply. Writing his account was not about revenge or self-defense. It was about record-keeping. He wanted future readers to find somewhere among the noise the testimony of someone who had been there, who had seen key moments with his own eyes. Before doing so, he took careful steps. He sought legal clearance, consulted the Queen's lawyers, and Music received quiet approval from the palace. Only then did he publish his account. He stood by every word, confident that time would either disprove him or confirm what he had said, and time did confirm it. Jeffson was later vindicated, though Bashir was not really given serious sanction. So why did truth arrive without real justice? And who decided that was enough? Let uncover the raw facts, truth behind the panorama deception. In 2022, when Patrick Jeffson finally received a substantial settlement from the BBC, it was more than just personal vindication. It became a chance to honor Diana's memory in a meaningful way. Choosing to donate the damages to the T-Fan Children's Hospice, a charity Diana had supported, was a deliberate act of turning a painful chapter into something lasting and positive. The hospice used the funds to create the sanctuary, a place of peace and solace for families of children with life-limiting illnesses, a permanent tribute to the compassion Diana had championed from the very beginning. For Jeffson, the BBC settlement was a long overdue correction, but it wasn't a moment to dwell in self-pity. Reflecting on the 25 years since the panorama deception, he emphasizes gratitude for his life, the people who loved and supported him, and the unexpected kindnesses that kept him going. The experience, painful as it was, had also provided perspective. Rather than focus on anger or regret, he chose to channel energy into preserving Diana's legacy, ensuring that history would remember the woman he knew, a woman far more complex and capable than the media's simplified images. The shadow of Martin Bashir, however, lingered. Though his deception caused incalculable damage, the consequences for him were minimal. Incredibly, Bashir returned to the BBC in 2016 as religion editor, a move that highlighted how lightly accountability had been applied. Complaints raised by Diana's brother, Earl Spencer, were dismissed at the time, allowing Bashir to avoid scrutiny for decades. Yet, snorts through Andy Webb's relentless investigative work, the truth has finally surfaced. Jefferson credits Webb music with exposing the layers of deception and clarifying what truly transpired, helping to correct the historical record and offering some measure of closure to those affected. Even after the revelations, Jeffson's focus remains on positive outcomes rather than lingering resentment. Bashir's actions, while harmful, are left to others to judge. For Jefferson, the priority is the truth about Diana's life and her snorts achievements. Her role as a royal was far more than symbolic. She was not merely Shy D or Snorts, the charitable princess depicted in photographs and public ceremonies. Diana was a formidable figure poised for monarchy with intelligence, grace, and skis grace music, and a capacity for leadership that the world never fully witnessed. Every challenge she faced, every public expectation she met demonstrated, Snorts a depth of character and foresight that went unnoticed amid media distortions. Looking back, Jeffson reflects on the opportunities Diana lost because of the lies spread around her. Her sons, William and Harry, were denied the chance to see first, and how she navigated her royal responsibilities with wisdom and strength. The panorama deception not only betrayed Diana personally, but also shaped the public narrative, depriving her children of insights into their mother's true capabilities. Despite the injustice, Jeffson is clear that her story, once mudded, is now being restored to its rightful place. Her voice and her actions documented for history. And yet, beneath the tragedy and the deception, Diana possessed remarkable vision, ambition, and determination for the monarchy. But how different might history have been if her full potential had been realized? Let's explore the intelligence, influence, and legacy they overlooked. For decades, the popular image of Princess Diana painted her as a fragile figure, someone who was simply swept along by circumstances, caught in a whirlwind she could neither understand nor control. She was portrayed as delicate, almost insubstantial, a woman whose life was dictated by fate and the relentless glare of public attention. But those who truly worked with her, who saw her every day behind the palace walls, tell a very different story. From the testimonies of her private music staff, aides, and even the biographies that carefully chart her life, a clearer, far more compelling portrait emerges. Diana was intelligent, strategic, and deeply aware of the institution she had married into. She understood the rules of the royal game even if she occasionally found herself misled, manipulated, or lied to, as she was, for example, by Martin Snort's Bashir during the infamous Panorama episode. Such betrayals explain moments when she might have seemed uncertain or unarmed, but they do not define her. Far from being a passive figure swept along by events, Diana was a woman with vision, determination, and a strong sense of purpose. She wanted the royal family to succeed, not for ambition alone, but for the greater good. She wanted her sons to thrive as heirs who could embody the monarchy's potential. She admired the institution and recognized its capacity to make a positive impact, especially music for people whom society often overlooked. She was conscious of social gaps, aware of those who had been ignored, marginalized, or left behind, and she acted on that knowledge. Her charity work was not just emotional or performative, it was purposeful, informed, and strategic. Diana's influence extended beyond Britain. Her overseas tours, though often highlighted as charitable missions, carried enormous diplomatic weight. From meetings with presidents in France, the United States, Argentina, and even the Emperor of Japan, Diana acted as a solo ambassador for the UK. She was a public figure with profound diplomatic clout, shaping impressions, building bridges, and representing British interests with effectiveness few could rival. Each visit, and SUBSCRIBE, for MORE humanitarian efforts with national service, showing that she was neither naive nor superficial, but incredibly competent and strikingly aware of broader impact of her role. Yet despite her intelligence and dedication, Diana was often underestimated by those closest to her. Her family and the family she married into. Her ideas, her potential, and her tireless work were frequently dismissed, leaving the nation deprived of a remarkable talent. Those who failed to recognize her worth not only undermined her, but also diminished the public good she could have achieved. As a result, the country lost a rare and extraordinary force for empathy, diplomacy, and change. Looking at the monarchy today, the absence of Diana's guidance and vision remains deeply felt. From internal crises like Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor's exile, and the defenestration music of titles to public distrust, dwindling poll numbers, and growing scrutiny of royal decisions. The challenges are mounting. Much now rests on the shoulders of the current Prince and Princess of Wales and their children. The goodwill toward the monarchy is not infinite. It must be earned and preserved. Diana's legacy reminds us of what is possible when royal influence is wielded wisely, and what is lost when it is not. Her life challenges us to reconsider the narratives we have long accepted. She was far more than a tragic figure or a peripheral footnote. She was central, capable, canny, and visionary. Her story still urges reflection, asking the living to learn from the mistakes that kept her brilliance from being fully realized. And that's a glimpse behind the curtain of Diana's life. What do you think about Bashir's BBC betrayal? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe.